This is the Phrase Podcast. It's Alite, Alite.
ACDJ Vancouver here in beautiful Vancouver, British Columbia.
Man, how wonderful was it to see LeBron James get his fourth championship?
Dude, I'm going to tell you something very personal, a little personal story.
Yeah.
I remember when I saw Michael Jordan win the three-peat.
Yeah, huge.
Was probably one of my most memorable sports moments. Three-peat, never saw that before. Michael, I don't believe in my time. And I didn't think that I would see anything quite as glorious as Michael Jordan until, and I won't say it was this year, but this year, phenomenal. What he accomplished in the bubble, phenomenal. Probably 2016 was probably the biggest, the block and the win, right? That was probably, in my opinion, one of the greatest moments in sports. The greatest athletic things that I've ever seen in a playoff game was that block on Iguodala and win. You see when remember he reached, how high he reached on that block?
And how quickly he got there. They literally traced how fast he was going, and it was some ridiculous number, like 21 miles per hour between this short distance.
Hungry.
Yeah. It's phenomenal to watch.
And when it was a foregone conclusion that they were going to win this title. Yes. Let's not fluff it up.
Yeah, I think people were wanting Miami to be entertaining at the least, which we got.
They had no chance.
We got a good series. It was an entertaining series.
Mm-hmm.
Went to 6 games. It was a little bit of a threat.
Yeah.
But man, that game 6, there was no chance. Nobody was taking it from LeBron that night.
I bet the house on that game. I did. I bet everything that I had, every shiny rock, every CD and DJ thing I had, I pushed it all in on game 6. I knew for a fact that game was solid. If you ever bet, it was awesome because LeBron is the real deal, man. And I have a Mike on Mike coming in the next couple of days that's talking about this.
Yeah.
But LeBron, and let's go beyond Michael Jordan. Let's go beyond talking about the greatest basketball player of all time. Because right now, that's a little passé.
Little cliche.
It's a little passé.
Yeah.
I always like to go one up. I always like to go bigger, right? We always like to go big. And I'm going to say that this kid, what's his name? LeBron.
What's his name?
It's probably the greatest athlete we might have ever seen in our existence.
I think I'm there with you, man. I think there's very few people that you can put in that category. I think Muhammad Ali is close as far as overall impact.
Why is Muhammad Ali close?
Well, because he revolutionized the way people thought. Okay. He revolutionized the way people saw themselves. Mm-hmm. He made people believe that they were bigger than they ever could be. Yeah. And not just black people, all minorities. Minorities love Muhammad Ali. It's almost unanimous that if you have brown skin, you love Muhammad Ali.
Ali Boumaier.
Right? Ali Boumaier, man. That's just, it's automatic. But what LeBron did is special, man.
So let me ask you something.
Yeah.
Is Muhammad Ali the greatest boxer of all time?
That's so hard, man. I guess it depends what the metric is.
Well, what's the metric for greatest basketball player? How do we rate the greatest basketball player? And this is where the true argument begins. And, there's two sides of the coin here when we talk about the greatest in anything, right? And why I say LeBron is the greatest athlete of all time is for reasons. I got a couple of my athletes out here, and I want to hit you up with these a little bit later, but let's do it now. All right. So I had a couple ideas about the greatest athletes of all time. Yeah. And just even thinking about that, about athletes, I thought about who is some of the greatest, and I had my top 5 here.
Oh, okay.
All right, here, let me show you what I said here, what I have written down here. So number 1, who I consider like in my generation, well, not even my generation, but growing up knowing about this guy, is a gentleman by the name of Jim Brown. Now, if any of the kids out there have ever heard of a guy named Jim
up.
Brown? You haven't? Look him up.
Look him up.
Right?
Yes.
Put aside a little bit of time. You're going to have to put away the ADD for a little bit and focus on some black and white.
Yeah.
But that brother could play any sport. He was he lettered in 5 sports.
Damn.
In high school.
Explain what lettered is for people.
So in the States, for all you guys, you were high school dropouts. Lettering in school is like you are the top of the class for your sport.
Okay.
So Jim Brown went to Syracuse University, and he's actually in the College Hall of Fame, he's in the Pro Hall of Fame, and he's in the Lacrosse Hall of Fame.
Gee.
He still holds records to this day in lacrosse that have never been broken since the 60s.
Wow.
Amazing.
Lacrosse is a rough sport, man.
No joke.
I don't give a fucking lacrosse.
They asked me to play lacrosse one year.
Yes.
So I grew up in Victoria. Yeah. I'm in the road, ding, 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 just knocking fools out. And some of the guys, the Gates brothers, sat me down in a bar. I was there at a bar one night, and they're like, hey, do you ever think about coming and play lacrosse? I'm like, hell no. You guys are crazy.
Yeah, no.
Right? It's a crazy sport. They're like, doesn't matter. Just learn how to catch and throw a ball. Come out there and punch people out. And you'll win a ring. And I'm like,
wow.
Yeah, no. I'm thinking, man, that would be awesome. But I'm sitting there with my dad, who's like the ultimate, call you out on everything kind of thing, right? Yeah. And so I'm like, shit, man, I didn't want to perpetrate like I was going to be this cocky. I was going to get my clock cleaned if I went out there because they're tough as hell.
Savage.
Lacrosse fighting is different than fighting in a boxing ring. Dude, sir, put up your dukes.
Technique, yeah.
Yeah, it's just like bam, 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 like hockey fights, right? It's street fights, right? So I'd have to get in there and get mushy face. But right now, I'd be wearing the ring. If I had done it, I would be wearing that shit every single day.
Not worth the trade-off.
Not worth it.
No.
It's a tough one.
But back to Jim Brown.
Okay, so Jim Brown, he was number one. The other one I really, really, really respect is Bo Jackson, one of the greatest athletes, I think, ever. And the only thing that prevented him was he got broken. He was broken.
Did you see that 30 for 30 they did on him?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Unbelievable.
Like an urban legend, some of the stories they talk about this guy.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. Didn't he Pro Bowl and MLB All-Star?
Yeah.
Didn't he do both?
Yeah. And he's the first one to play a playoff game in 2 sports at the same time.
Oh, my God.
So he played Kansas City in the day and then flew to have his night game or the other way around, one of the other two. In the same day.
Jeez.
That's gangster. That's that guy that shows up at the ball court when you're just playing some pickup and you're like, I was just going to play. And then Bo shows up and you're like, oh, fuck.
Dunk on everybody.
Yeah, we're going to dunk on everyone. No one's going to have a chance. He's going to be, king of the court all week.
Yeah,
right?
I think he's going to stay underrated just because he didn't really have an ending, right?
He didn't have a fair ending.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Another one I had on here that people don't really talk about is Pele.
Oh.
I know. I came out of left field with that one, didn't I?
Soccer legend. Okay.
Yes. Right? Soccer legend Pele.
Yeah.
Pele has some records that people don't even talk about. That he makes him phenomenal. He had he's the leader of hat tricks in soccer. He has 96 hat tricks.
In soccer,
yeah. He scored 1,300 plus goals.
Oh my goodness.
All right. And he won the World Cup 3 times, which no one else has ever done.
Yeah, and for people that watch soccer, no, there's not a lot of goals scored.
Not a lot of goals scored.
So to have that many hat tricks?
96.
He was putting it on.
It's crazy. And to put it in perspective, Ronaldo has 56. He's second with 56 hat tricks.
That's crazy.
And look how good Ronaldo is. Ronaldo is always considered the number 1 footballer in the world.
That's not even close.
And Messi, who's third, has 36. Has 36, right? And so
there's no contest.
There's no contest, dude.
And they'll never come close. These guys are already coming to like not the twilight, but into the later years of their career.
And you got to remember, when Pele was playing, Brazil was nothing.
Yeah.
Pele brought Brazil to the level of fear that Brazil's at now, right? There's always a conflict with Maradona and Pele, right? Maradona and Pele. Right? But, I mean, Pele scored so many goals. He was so good.
Yeah.
And my fourth guy I got to bring up, and I was going to bring this, and then I think we'll get to your point, is Wayne Gretzky, man. Like, there are so many better players than Wayne Gretzky. And I know that hockey purists right now are going to be like, what? But this was what leads into what I think is the greatest part about LeBron James, is that even though Gretzky scored all those goals and, you know, he had 4 championships with Edmonton and never won again after he left Edmonton, right? But he was always great, always an ambassador of the game, leads in points and goals and all that stuff. But then you look at a player like Steve Yzerman. You know Steve Yzerman?
Yeah, of course. Detroit Red Wings.
Right? 25 years with the same team. He started in 1989 and then played until... he started in 1988 and then played until 2009.
Yzerman's a stud, man.
Yzerman, I think that's what it was. 25 years at a high level.
Yeah.
Even in his retirement, in his final season, he scored like 20 goals. So he was like,
and he's got a cup as well.
He's got like three cups, I think,
Wings.
as well. Yeah. And you look at a guy like, not Rod Brendamore. What's the other guy? Another guy. But I mean, this is what I think the true measure of greatness should be, and why we need to respect LeBron. And I want to hear your answer on this one. Is that LeBron has done something that not many superstars have been able to accomplish, and that points, whatever, assists, all that stuff is crap compared to his longevity and the way that he has been able to conduct a flawless career. Flawless, bro.
Yeah, I agree.
Right? 17 years at a high level and averaging a triple-double in his 17th year in the playoffs. There has never been an athlete ever, that has been this productive this late in life.
Yeah, it's phenomenal to watch at this age still be the top 3 players in the league. Could easily be league MVP multiple years on end. If they didn't have to give it to other players, he could easily be MVP almost every season he plays.
Every season. Well, Jordan was that way too, right?
Yeah, I agree. And with LeBron James, I think the most unique thing about LeBron James is the fact that not only is his numbers statistically as good as they were 10 years ago, but the way that he plays, he's so much more advanced than everybody on the floor.
Huge.
Like you hear, I heard DeMar DeRozan talking about LeBron's IQ, saying that LeBron would be telling our players on the offensive end where they should be based on the plays that they were running.
Yeah.
So he's watching other teams, dissecting what they're doing on the fly, knowing the plays better than the players know the plays. And when you prepare like that, when you're a demon, like when you have the demon mentality, like Kobe Bryant, and you know, become obsessive with just winning and doing it the way he does it, invest in his body, invest in his brain. You know, he's doing it. I think there's no better way you can do it, or no one that's shown that there's a better way to do it like this guy has.
It's unbelievable. And you look at, like, what were you saying about just a second ago about on the court, him managing. If you think about the one thing, and I was thinking about this yesterday, I heard a sportscaster talking about the greats and about, you know, how great they were at, how they always say the greats are good at being coached or whatever, right? They listen, whatever. But LeBron is the first superstar to not need a coach.
Well, I think the most telling thing is he takes rookie coaches
and takes them to the
into
promised
the finals.
Land.
Yeah, Teron Lue's a rookie coach. I think Spoelstra was a rookie coach when he took him to the finals. Frank Vogel's not a rookie coach, but took him to a chip. You know, he takes all these. And I think a part of it is when you have such a big basketball brain, your coach has to have some flexibility. Big time. Right? Like, I think with Popovich and Tim Duncan, I think they kind of established that later in the years that Tim Duncan didn't require coaching. He was kind of just like a template for what a player should be in that Spurs model, right? Yeah. But I think with LeBron James, when you have these rookie coaches and you enable a player like LeBron to be as great as he can be, you're going to win, man. And I think a part of the problem with a couple of other players that are considered the MVPs, like the Kawhis and the Giannis's, that amazing as they are as individual players, because obviously they're amazing individual players, there's something that changes when you have like the right team around you with certain players. Like Paul George requires the right team to be successful. Kawhi requires the right team to be successful. But LeBron takes garbage. Oh, yeah. And takes them to the finals. Not saying NBA players are garbage. Don't get me wrong. Buddy. But when you look at some of the surrounding rosters that he's taken to the finals, it's laughable.
That Cleveland team that he dragged to the playoffs and won with was horrible.
Ridiculous. And when he was younger, he took a team with the second best player was Zydrunas Ilgauskas.
Big Zed.
And they had Donyell Marshall.
Yeah.
Took Donyell Marshall to the All-Star team.
Yeah.
A guy who would never be an All-Star.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, so he really enabled a lot of greatness because of his individual greatness.
And that's really what greatness is. Like, your greatness
so.
isn't just being able to score a bunch of points in this, because if that's true, Tracy McGrady would have a ton of points.
Tracy was
one of the best. Before LeBron, I'd have to say McGrady was probably one of the best complete basketball players. So much fun to watch. He was great back in the day.
Yeah, injuries killed him, man. Yeah. Injuries killed him. He would have been a winner for sure.
He didn't work out enough. You know, I mean, he was always flat. He always came in flat. And
him and Yao Ming could have been amazing if they didn't have injuries.
That was great.
Dude, Yao was fantastic too, man.
It's another great one.
Yeah, he'll never get credit because he didn't win big.
Well, and this also plays into another thing with like Michael and with LeBron. Like, LeBron's doing this in the social media area where, you know, it's somewhat easier to be labeled the greatest now because you're in somebody's face all the time. It's a 24/7 news cycle, sports cycle. So, you know, chances of somebody not seeing or hearing your name on a daily basis during the season is pretty slim. Yeah. You know what I mean? So, and Michael did it during the time when it was TV. You know, so if you were watching TV, chances are you saw Michael on TV.
And that'd be the only way.
Yeah. And it was funny because back then, if I could be like Mike, if I could be like Mike. Remember?
Man, was that big.
That was huge. Yeah. That was stupid. Yeah. And everybody wanted to be. That was the marketing plan back then. Be like Mike. Right? TV, buy Nikes, buy Gatorade.
I hated that shit.
Right? Yeah. And now it's like, it's a different type of athlete because now it isn't what we want you to see. You get to see every part of the athlete. And the athlete is more likely to crack nowadays.
Because the scrutiny is different, right?
It's totally different.
Yeah.
People have different expectations.
Yeah, I think if Jordan was in the social media era, he wouldn't be able to be as private as he was. Come on, man.
Yeah.
Social media world just changes you. I've seen Michael Jordan more post-basketball in the social media era than I did when he was on the floor. Because we only saw him in games.
Yeah.
Games and interviews. He wasn't out. You know, he's not like a celebrity that was on all the talk shows and TV shows and stuff like that.
Yeah. Right? What's going to convince people that LeBron is the greatest?
See, that the greatest argument is so hard, man, because there's a couple of years where I can say that I think we talked about this last time about Olajuwon's Houston team. Mm-hmm. I don't think there's another team that you could put against them, at least for those 2 years where they wouldn't win. They just caught the greatness, right?
Yeah.
And then when you look at the Detroit Pistons team with Ben Wallace and Richard Hamilton and Chauncey Billups when they won their ring, and at that time in the NBA, there was nobody that could touch them, so they were the greatest for that year. So the greatest argument's hard. I think people should look at basketball more in eras, right? As far
the greatest of the era.
Yeah, like you get obviously Jordan has his era.
Yeah.
Because what's the do you want Jordan and LeBron to play 1-on-1 at their prime? It would make sense.
If you had to take one of those, either one to build a team on, Michael in his prime, 25, Jordan or LeBron in his prime, 25, you take. Let's even throw in one more, Kobe Bryant at 25. Who are you building your team around?
Jeez, I think Kobe Bryant, but I think I would want to be able to decide who coaches as well. Because you need a great coach for Kobe Bryant.
Yeah.
You need someone that can really use that monstrous talent, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So Jackson was perfect. And Kobe didn't want to play for anybody else. There's a reason why he didn't want to play for anybody else. Because, Phil just knew his game.
Yeah.
And knew how to let him go.
Yeah. So now that LeBron has brought home the title to La La Land.
Yeah.
Is he immortalized in the annals of time, right, as a great Laker? Is he now officially one of the greats in Laker Nation? So I'm a Laker fan. Been a Laker fan for all my life, since I can remember watching Magic Johnson for the first time.
Oh yeah, Showtime.
Right?
Yeah.
Beat Larry Bird. Oh, did you know I saw another really interesting stat today that Michael's never beaten Larry Bird in the playoffs?
No, he didn't.
Ever.
Got killed. He had great games, individual games, but he never beat him in a series.
Yeah, never beat him in a series.
Come on, man. That Celtics team was too much.
Yeah.
MJ had nobody to help him back then.
Oh, that's funny when you watch those reruns.
Yeah, no, it's a joke.
Michael's so small. Yeah. He's like a little alien kind of.
Yeah, no. Like it's one of those things with we were just talking about something else.
About Michael and generational. Okay, let me restart you.
Okay.
generation-wise, last 50 years,
Yeah.
who is on your generational Mount Rushmore of basketball players?
50 years.
You got 5 players.
First pick would be Magic Johnson.
It's the 80s.
Akeem Olajuwon.
In the 90s.
LeBron James.
The 2000s. And 10s, I guess.
So we can go back to the 70s as well then.
So is that what it goes? So 70s?
So 70s to the 2020s. Julius Erving. Oh, that's so tough. That's so tough.
A lot of crossovers in decades, but we're talking dominance of the 70s. Obviously, Julius Erving, huge. Kareem, probably unstoppable.
Yeah.
Like, even if Kareem was around today, that skyhook would still work, and he would be unstoppable.
Yeah, and that's when, I think if I had to definitively decide on a GOAT for basketball, I'd have to lean towards Kareem the most, because he's the most winningest basketball player ever.
Yeah.
NCAA, he won.
Yeah.
NBA, he won on multiple teams and dominated.
Except he never played Shaq.
Yeah, he never played Shaq, but I think Shaq is...
Because at one point, Shaq was the most dominant player.
Well, yeah, he was, but Olajuwon made him look silly.
He did.
And Olajuwon and Kareem have similar games. A lot of grace, a lot of good footwork. Yeah. And I think you can frustrate Shaq with the right kind of big guy. You just got to make him work as hard on the defensive end, right? And Olajuwon was putting up 30 on him easily.
Yeah.
And then when Shaq had to run down the floor and try and score on Olajuwon just knew how to handle it, right?
Yeah, Olajuwon was so good.
So I think Kareem got that locked.
Yeah.
So I think Wilt Chamberlain is the X factor, though.
So Wilt is still, and Kareem.
That's the X factor.
All right. So who's your 80s basketball player?
I loved watching Jordan play, but I hated him at the same time because he beat a lot of teams that I wanted to win. Yeah. So for 80s basketball, the top would have to be Isaiah Thomas or Dominique Wilkins. I think Isaiah Thomas is unique because he kind of had that anti-hero thing going on. Jordan was the golden boy, and Isaiah Thomas was the bad boy. So I kind of lean towards Isaiah.
Yeah,
because he had that. It was a different thing, that Pistons team, right?
Isaiah was a weird cat.
Yeah,
he didn't get much love, and he did Chuck. He didn't. Hold on, Chuck. He didn't get much love in the NBA. Eh?
Yeah, I can see why. See why. Chuck. The ego was high, right?
His ego?
Yeah, and I think he had every right to have a huge ego.
Yeah, you mean he was on a pretty badass team, right? You know what I mean? And they let him be himself, and allowed him to be kind of lippy. He's that little guy that's on the schoolyard, and then run behind the big guy, right?
And he played on that shattered ankle.
Yeah,
right. I think he immortalized himself when he played on that shattered ankle.
Yeah, that was
in the playoffs, and just played right through it like a beast.
Yeah.
Certain things people do that just alter their stature, right?
Oh yeah.
Well, like Tracy, when he scored that 9 points in 13 seconds. Some ridiculous number like that.
That was amazing. Was that against New York?
Reggie did it to New York.
Oh, Reggie did it to New York. Yeah,
Reggie was a bad man too.
See, that's another one, man. Who was a better shooter than Reggie back in the day?
Reggie in this era would be ungodly to watch.
Oh, even he does. I think he sits there and goes, "Oh, I could have made like $250
Why'd I have to play in the 80s?
right? Against Michael and not win anything." It's hard to not to say Michael in the 80s, in the 90s, sorry. 80s, I have to go with Magic. He's just too influential in basketball.
So much fun to watch.
He's just too good back then. Yeah. No wonder, he got all the girls and he got into that little trouble, right? Like, guy was so gangster back then.
Well, I've heard interviews of him talking about how he had to have it to feed his ego. He had to have that, the nonstop 5-6 women at a time kind of thing, right?
I don't know how you do that.
Yeah, well,
I guess when you're 20, right? It's easy.
When you called magic,
for
the rest of your life,
it's a magic pill,
dude. How the ego is just enables you to do incredible things.
Well, and look at what happened with LeBron, right? Yeah. Like, he talked about the respect factor, and that motivates him. Yeah. When people don't respect him or compare him to other people, then that's when he loses it.
Well, I think that's one of the other things that makes him unique is because he has lived a lifestyle that's kind of generally admirable. There's not really much bad to say about the guy, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's what makes it even more impressive over top of what he does physically on the court. Mm-hmm. It's just a completely different thing.
So do the Lakers repeat next year?
I think they're one piece away from a repeat. And the only reason I say one piece away is because there's a couple of other teams that are also right on the cusp of winning.
Yeah.
So depending on what happens with the Miami Heat, depends what happens with Milwaukee, and who retools where. People forget Golden State's going to be phenomenal.
They got the second pick in the draft.
And they got a healthy Clay and Steph.
Yeah,
I mean, healthy
dangerous.
Clay and Steph is guaranteed playoffs.
That's
guaranteed playoffs.
Twosome.
Maybe not guaranteed finals anymore, but guaranteed playoffs for sure. And then what about, the Nets?
Well, see, this is a weird team because they're trying. What I see about the Nets is they try to be LeBron as much as they can. Kyrie and KD really wish they were LeBron in so many ways.
I think they've said as much at times.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because
I remember I've heard KD say that when he plays 2K, he uses LeBron.
Yeah. Right? They want to be LeBron, right? And here's the thing, like what they've done during this season or off season totally backs up my claim. Hiring Steve Nash, my homeboy Steve Nash.
Brilliant.
Was brilliant, and it was also very revealing because it seems like in today's NBA, if you really truly want to be a superstar, like I said earlier, back in the day, you had to be coachable. You needed to understand the triangle, and you had to run with the, run and gun offense, and you had to learn all this. Yeah. Whereas nowadays, players kind of want to be their own coach and their own field general. It's almost like the next level up. LeBron has created this next level over superstar, which is like uncoachable superstar. Like the guy that you can put on a team with 4 other schmucks in a soup can and go out there and win or contest for a championship. Yeah. And I see that that's where the next level of these athletes are going.
And I think that kind of has to happen for certain segments in the NBA. Like I think Kawhi has that as well. I think he carves his own offense into what the team wants to run.
Except for the game 7 of
and
the championship.
And I think what it comes down to is how you can implement your best isolation player to be their best. Yeah. And then you get a random team like the Raptors that are well coached and have multiple weapons that are integrated into an offense. And I think that's a different thing because the Raptors don't have one definitive superstar. Yeah. They have a team offense, and that's rare. San Antonio is the same thing. They have a team offense. And I think those are the exception now. Whereas back in the 80s and 90s, that was the rule. Yeah. The Jazz were a well-coached team with superstars.
Yeah. Pick and roll.
Even the Bulls were a well-coached team with Michael Jordan, right? Like teams were well-coached because there was a team-coached approach. Now the individual player can do so much.